Reimagining Chapel. My name is Amanda Esco, and I am the director of the Religious Education Program here at the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. Thank you for joining us today. Let's start by lighting our chalice. I have mine right here. If you have a flower pot chalice at home, go run and grab it and we'll light them together. Or if you have a glazed pot chalice or a metal chalice, however you light this flame in your heart, go find it. All right, I'm gonna light ours. Now the intention that we're going to set today is growth, and our action is going to be service. So, we light this chalice for growth. In the spirit of service, we gather together in community to learn, to grow, and to serve. Well, we are well into October, almost the end of October, which means we have our annual Halloween celebration coming up. Now, it's going to be a little bit different this year, like everything else. We are going to have a trunk or treat. It'll be held in our parking lot of First Church on October 31st, right after the second worship service. Now we're asking that all cars be parked by 12:15 so we can lock off the parking lot so we can make sure everybody stays safe while we have the event. But we hope that you are there, that you decorate your trunks or not, show up with your candy or treats, and be in community together for a really fun day. I hope you're able to join us. I have a new meditation for us to try today. It's called a 5-finger meditation, and I just learned it this week, so I wanted to share it with you. So you hold out your hand, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna breathe up to the top of our finger, hold, down to the bottom of our finger, hold, and do that all the way up and down our hands. Now, as we're doing this, you can do a couple things. You could tell yourself an intention, like, I am loved, I am safe, I am in service to my community. These are all intentions that you could tell yourself in your head, or you can just sit there and try to breathe into the practice. So let's hold out our hands and try it together. Are you ready? Now you can do this sitting or standing, whatever feels best for you. So we're gonna take a deep breath in, hold, and then let it out. One more time. Deep breath in, hold, let it out. Deep breath in, hold, let it out. Deep breath in, hold, and let it out. Last one. Deep breath in, hold, let it out. Now, I like this meditative practice because I may not always have my bell with me, but you know what I always have with me? A hand. I never leave home without it. So this is a practice that I can incorporate anywhere I am. When I need a moment of stillness, when I need a moment of calm, when I need to feel centered. This is a practice that I can do without a lot of props. So I wanted to share this with you so you could add it into your routine. We'll do it a couple more times here in Reimagining Chapel too, but I thought it was fun and I wanted to share. Well, another practice that we have here is sharing our joys and concerns. Let's take a minute and you share your joys and concerns with the people at home and then come right back to me. Thank you for sharing your joys and concerns. It's important that we share with those who are around us, who want to hear our thoughts and what's on our mind, good and bad. Thank you for being brave and sharing. Miss Lissa has our UU of the week this week. Thank you, Lissa.
Welcome to UU of the Week. My name is Lissa Lander, and I'm the Religious Education Assistant at the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. Since we are learning about the Unitarian Church's roots in Transylvania this week, I thought, what better time than now to talk about my favorite UUs? They come as a bit of a set, but we're going to focus on Francis David, who was the founder of the Unitarian Church in Transylvania. Francis David was born in 1520 and was raised a Catholic. But as an adult, he went on a bit of a spiritual quest, later joining the Lutheran wing of the Reformation in 1542. Then, in 1559, he entered the Reformed Church, where he was elected Bishop of the Hungarian churches in Transylvania. And he was also appointed court preacher to the Prince of Transylvania at the time. The prince allowed him to research in the royal library and to work in the royal court on his theological thesis. During these studies, Francis David concluded that there was no scriptural basis for the Trinity. Influenced by the anti-Trinitarian and humanist views of Michael Servetus and Giovanni Valentino Gentile, Francis David wrote extensively about the flaws in Trinitarian beliefs, thus founding the Unitarian Church in Transylvania. He even went so far as to say it was not necessary to invoke the name of Jesus Christ in prayer. Talk about a religious dissenter, guys. Francis David eventually became the religious advisor to King John Sigismund II. But who is that, you might ask? So, once upon a time in Hungary, Queen Isabella gave birth to a young prince in 1540. 2 weeks later, the king died while away fighting a religious war, never having met his son. The new baby became King John Sigismund II, but he was a baby, so Queen Isabella ruled in his place until he got older. Now, this is all important to us because the people of Hungary were at war over what religion everyone should be. Isabella moved the young king to a faraway corner of the kingdom in Transylvania to try to escape the violence. It was there that she raised her son to be tolerant and charged him with stopping the religious wars. Sadly, Queen Isabella died when King Sigismund was only 19 years old. But remembering his promise to his mother to stop the religious war, Sigismund set to work, bringing Francis David in as his advisor. Rather than issuing a royal decree that everyone had to be the same religion as the king, like so many other kings had done, King Sigismund honored what his mother had taught him and decided that representatives from the various religions should all come together and talk about their differences. So, a Calvinist, a Catholic, a Lutheran, a Greek Orthodox Christian, and a Unitarian all walked into a bar. Just kidding. That's a joke. They walked into the king's court and spoke about their ideas for years. In the end, the king liked what Francis David, the Unitarian, had to say so much that he became the first and only Unitarian king in the year 1568. King John Sigismund issued the Edict of Torda, which was the first legal decree for religious tolerance. It said, "In every place the preachers shall preach and explain the gospel, each according to his understanding of it, and if the congregation like it well. If not, no one shall compel them, for their souls would not be satisfied. But they shall be permitted to keep a preacher whose teachings they approve. No one shall be reviled for his religion by anyone, and it is not permitted that anyone should threaten anyone else by imprisonment, for faith is the gift of God." After King Sigismund's tragic and untimely death in a carriage accident, his court preacher Francis David was charged with heresy, which means belief or opinion contrary to orthodox religious and especially Christian doctrines. Istvan Bathory became king in Sigismund's place, and he was a Roman Catholic, and decreed that the new religious institutions that his predecessors' tolerance had inspired should all be persecuted. Francis David was sentenced to life in prison, which is where he later died in 1579. They found these words written on the walls of his prison cell. Quote, "We need not think alike to love alike." So wise. And guys, that's the best story. Am I right? To learn more about fascinating UUs, go to uuoftheweek.org and be sure to join us again next time.
We've spent all of October so far talking about longing. Longing can mean a lot of different things. It can mean really wanting something or an event to happen. It can also mean a feeling of connection to something that pulls you towards it. I want us to look a little bit more into that today. Let's check out our Wonder Box to see if what's inside can tell us more. And it's a little noisy. Oh, it is one of our flower pot chalices. We've delivered these chalices to your homes and decorated them here at church. Hopefully, you have one in your home right now. The lighting of a chalice is a ritual performed every week in Unitarian Universalist churches all around the world. The embodied practice connects us to our faith and our communities. Sometimes in people's lives, they just feel like maybe something's missing. A part of their hearts and their minds isn't feeling connected to themselves. So they look for a church community. Sometimes people want to find other people who share their values and beliefs and to be challenged on what they think. So they look for a church community. Sometimes people have a baby or two and want other people who believe what they believe to share their faith with their children. So they look for a church community. These feelings of wanting something else, something more, feeling a connection to themselves and the universe, has people longing for church. Today, I have a story to share with you about a village and one little girl who felt just this way. Lamp in Every Corner by Janine Groschmeyer, adapted by Amanda Esco. Many years ago in the land of Transylvania, in a mountain valley watered by quick rushing streams and shadowed by a great forest of beech trees, there was a small village full of wooden houses with dark shingled roofs. The people in the village were of the Unitarian religion, and they wanted a church of their own, a church set on the hillside, they decided, looking down upon the village. So all the people of the village labored long and hard to build themselves a church. The stonemasons hammered sharp chisels to cut great blocks of gray stone, then set the stones in stout and sturdy walls. The glaziers made tiny panes of glass and fitted them neatly into the windows with leaded lines. The foresters sawed tall beech trees into enormous beams and laid the trusses for the ceiling, then covered the roof with close-fitting wooden shingles that wouldn't leak a drop of rain. The carpenters carved wood for a pair of wide open doors, setting them on strong pews so that the doors hung straight and square. A bell was brought from a faraway city, then hoisted by ropes with a heave and a ho to the top of the tower. At the end of the day, when it was finished, and when their church was finally done, all the people in the village stood back to admire it, and then to sing a song of happiness and praise. Their village had a church now, a church set on the hillside, looking down upon the village. "We will eat now," announced an elder, because everyone is hungry after their long, long days of work. and later tonight we will come back to worship and pray." So the people of the village went down the hillside to their homes and their suppers, all except one little girl named Zora and her father, who stayed behind. They had brought their own bread and cheese. They ate their food slowly, sitting on the grass on the hillside, admiring their new church with its strong stone walls, its tall tower, and its magnificent bell. After they had eaten, they went back inside, opening those carved wooden doors to go into the glorious painted sanctuary inside. "Oh, look, Father," Zora cried, running from picture to picture, with her footsteps echoing off the stone walls. "See how pretty the church is?" She stopped in the center of the church, twirled slowly around. "See how grand?" "Yes, it is," said her father with pride. "But, Father," she said suddenly, "we have not finished." "What do you mean?" "There are tall lamps on the windows, but there are no lamps. There's no candles. The church will be dark when people come back." "Oh, little one, the light of the church comes from its people. You shall see." He rang the bell to call the people to worship, then took his daughter by the hand and led her back outside. They waited on the grassy hillside next to the beautiful church of strong gray stone. The sun had set behind the mountain, and the night was coming up soon. Yet in the growing darkness, tiny points of light came from many different directions and moved steadily up the hill. "Each family is entrusted with their own light, little one," her father explained. "Each family has it to light its own way here." "Where is our family's light?" "Your mother is carrying it. She will be here soon." The many lights moved closer together, gathering into one moving stream of light, all headed the same way, growing larger and larger, brighter all the time. Zora's mother arrived, bearing their candle in her hands. The father lifted Zora so she could set their family's candle tall in the iron stand. All around the church, other families were doing the same. Soon the church was ablaze in every corner, for all the people of the village had gathered to pray and sing. All through the worship service, Zora watched the lights flicker and glow. She watched her family's light most of all. When the service was over, her father lifted her high. She took another family's candle from the lampstand. Its curved sides and felt warm and smooth in her hands. Her mother carried it all the way home, the flame lighting the way. The lamp lit their house when they returned. Zora washed her face and got ready for bed by the light of that flame. "Mother," said Zora. "Yes, little one," her mother said, tucking in the red wool blanket around Zora's shoulders. "Father said the light of the church come from its people." "Yes. Also, people take their light from church, and they take other people's lights. And we have that light every day." "Yes, indeed," said her mother. "When we come to church, we bring our light, ourselves, to our community. When we leave, we take the light from everyone home with us. And even when we're not in church, even when the light is not lit, we carry the light of truth and the flame of love to show us the way to be in the world." "But each family only has one light," said Zora. "So make another and let that light grow," said her mother. "And someday tell your children to make more lights too, and their children, and their children. And now, good night," said her mother, and she kissed Zora on the cheek and on the forehead. Zora closed her eyes and drifted into dreams, while her mother looked down at her sleeping child. The years passed. Zora grew. The light came into her care. She kept it polished and clean, and when the bell rang out across the valley to call the people to worship, she carried it back and forth
on the hillside, the flame always lighting her way. And when the time came, she made more lamps and gave them to her children, who made more lamps and gave them to their children. And so it went on throughout the years, even today. And, as always, the light of truth, the flame of love from that Unitarian church on the hillside continued to grow and show them and us the way.
Zora felt the longing in her heart to share her faith and traditions with those that came after her. Each week, as we gather in worship, in person and online, on Zoom or on YouTube, we are connected to each other by the longing in our hearts for community, for connection to the wonder and awe in the universe. The divine spirit that connects us all, our interconnected web, binding our hearts and our minds, inviting us to be together in faith and love. Unitarian Universalism invites all people to its table to learn, to grow, and to serve, just like in our story today. By listening to the longing in our hearts, we are led to our faith community. Thank you for joining me for another Reimagining Chapel. To find out more information about the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City, please visit us at slcuu.org. Until next time, let's heart out.
One, each person is important. Two, be kind in all you do. Three, help each other.